welcome to all of you and a heartfelt namaste. I, Anuradha Sharda, would like to thank all of you for watching our videos, writing in your comments and your suggestions. Today we have with us Vishalji. Vishalji, a warm welcome to you.
Thank you, Nuradaji.
Vishalji is an IT professional, and with that, he also does Vastu and astrology, which he inherited from his mother. So, Vishalji, how long have you been? You've been studying astrology for, I know, for since you were in class 10, 11, 12. So that's been a long journey of probably more than 25 years. But actively, how long have you been practicing Vastu? Because Vastu also, as you said, you had been starting during that time only, but
Yeah.
active practice.
So I mean, both of them are correlated with each other, and I learned everything I learned from my mother. Vastu, my mother used to do that, and I used to help her. But as an individual, I have been helping and practicing Vastu for last 5 to 6 years. And during that time, I have also advanced or learned few more things in Vastu, and also this which we are going to talk about is the traditional Chinese medicine, which is also on the basis of Vastu. But for last 5 to 6, I've been helping a lot of people as a consultant or somebody who needs that. Then I'm happy to help them. So it's probably 6 years now.
Okay. So now today we are going to talk on health ailments, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
about the ailments. So what is the importance of elements in Vastu?
So look, I mean, as I said, there are 5 elements: fire, earth, air, water, space, and these are the 5 senses as well. So our senses are controlled by these 5 elements, and our body is also actually made up of these 5 elements. Primarily water is the main element. 70% of our bodies is water.
Water.
But our nature is also made of that, and our body is made of that, and the place where we live, which we said that our subconscious mind, which is where we live, gets impacted. And similarly, our body gets impacted, our mind gets impacted. So everything is correlated: your body, your environment, your astrology, Vastu, they are all correlated, right? So let me go through these slides, and then maybe we'll give an insight, how they are correlated.
Right.
One thing I wanted to mention, the reason I have picked up the fire element is because fire is the most purest element out of the 5 elements. And so if we go by the uh, by the uh, by the scriptures, for example, or by the history, Goddess Sita actually was asked to showcase whether she is pure or not. So she was asked to take that test of to go into the fire. So fire, anything which is impure gets burned into fire, but anything
Right.
which is pure comes out of fire. So that's one thing. People get married in front of fire because that is the
Sacred
symbolism of
union. Yeah.
sacred union, and its purity, and it is also the in a way is a witness of your union. And
Right.
similarly, the other thing they say is that fire is the mouth of the devta. So anything you offer to the fire. So whenever you start your yagna, you always offer something to the fire. So the mouth of the devta is the fire, and then it goes to the supreme. So that's why I thought let's discuss the fire, because that's the purest element. So if we go to these slides, Anuradha ji.
Right. So,
So 5 elements are, water, air, fire, earth, and each element has been given a specific organ.
organ.
So in traditional Chinese medicine, there is a concept of yin and yang. So one is a hollow and one is a solid organ. So for example, water has been given as kidney and urinary bladder. Liver is given, air is given liver, and gallbladder skin. Skin is also known as liver, gallbladder, but skin is also known as third lung. Uh, then you have got fire, which is heart, small intestine, and pericardium. Earth is stomach, spleen, and then space is lung and large intestine. Now, I think so. This is what it is, and then you have got 5 sensory organs, and then you have got zodiacs. So you have got 12 zodiacs for 4 elements, and then you don't have any zodiac allocated to the space element.
Space element.
Okay. As we have got these organs allocated to each element, we also have an organ clock. So the concept of the organ clock is that every organ gets active at particular time, and if we use that organ at that particular time, then you are actually nourishing that organ. So for example, kidneys are functioning at the highest level is between 5 to 7 p.m. So that is the time. Kidneys are water element. So if you do if you take a bath, if you do swimming, if you do drink a lot of water, it is actually helping to help your kidneys. But drinking tea is not allowed. That is what we do in subcontinent, or people in the evening actually start the evening with a tea. So I always say, don't drink tea, which is not going to help your kidneys, but have water, or if you want to do it before. Similarly, your lungs are active between 3 to 5 a.m. And your liver is also active between 5 to 7. Liver is related to your air element. So breathing exercise, as we say in India, is that you should do breathing in the morning. And this is being said that the morning air is represented by Jupiter, which is nothing but an air, right? So anything which is from 5 to 7, if you breathe, it will help you in your air element, right?
Right.
Breathing during the 5 to 7 is considered very good. Also in India, they say you should do yoga, pranayam, or any exercise do between 5 to 7. That is the time. If it is not Brahm Muhurat, but that is the first time where the first hour is the hora of that day, which is beneficial, right? So you can use that. So it is always good to do that. Similarly, heart is most active between 11 to 1, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. So heart is active at that time, which is fire. And then you have got small intestine. It is advised that at this time, people who have got heart problems, they should take rest. Ideally, anybody who wants to has got any issue with blood pressure or anything to do with the fire element, which we'll see later, should take rest. Don't put too much pressure during 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock. Around that time, don't put too much pressure, because it puts too much pressure on your heart. So try to take rest at that time. So the idea is that that if you know what organs is active at what time, then you can help. So if you have an ailment of kidney, then use water during that time. Or you can use, because you're enhancing the energy, you can use mantras. For example, if it is kidney 5 to 7, use the mantras for the water element, for example, right? So you can enhance that element, enhance that organ during that time. So if we go to another next slide, please. Again, this slide actually mentions how elements and parts are correlated with your chakras. So if your element is disturbed, then your chakras are also getting disturbed. So for example, heart has got a crown chakra here. Heart and the crown chakra is with the fire element. So if you look at heart, that is which is represented by Venus, and then the crown is sitting there at the top. So these are the two ones for fire. For example, earth, you have got sacral and solar plexus. For space, you have got throat. So for example, throat is related to lungs. So people who have got thyroid, right? If they have a thyroid problem, then you know that their throat chakra is actually blocked. They're having an issue. So that means your metal element is disturbed when you are having an issue with thyroid. So that's how you can correlate with that. In astrology, Mercury is irrelevant. So if Mercury is afflicted, then you will say that you will have something to do with the thyroid.
Right.
Similarly, base chakra is with kidney, and then brow chakra is to do with the air element. So that's the idea, is to showcase how chakras get impacted if your body impacts are impacted, or how chakras impacts your body organs, and how the environment within the house impacts your chakras, for example. So they're all correlated. So if anything goes wrong, that space will be impacted, and then chakra will be impacted.
So here I would like to ask you a question, since we are talking about the fire element, and fire element specifically is the south direction. So what is it? Southeast, yes. So what is it that at that point in our home, since it's a very Vastu driven conversation also, what is it within our homes that has an impact on the south direction, southeast, and what it is that would bring about an imbalance in that direction?
Yeah, okay. So if you can put any slide, let's just look at any of these slides.
Okay.
No, go to the, yeah. So if you look at this slide where the organs are, so water destroys fire, and then fire destroys space. The another way to say is water controls fire, right? What that means is that if the water element comes into the fire, so water is north and fire is south to south, south to southeast. So if your water element or items related to water comes into your fire zone, then your fire is getting imbalanced, because water will extinguish the fire. It will destroy the fire altogether. So your fire. And what does fire represent? Fire represents your cash flow, because that's where Venus is. Venus is for cash. Mars is there. That means your confidence, your ability to command is there. Also, your ability to get fame as well. Your fame gets impacted if your fire is imbalanced. So when water comes in, that gets impacted. Now, what are the indicators of water? Blue and black color is represented by water, and any wavy shape item is represented by water. So water items with blue, black, wavy items going into southeast to south quadrant, that means your fire is impacted. Right. The other way to look at it is what happens if fire element goes into the water. So if your fire related item goes into the water, not only water is getting impacted, but your fire is also getting weak, because fire is going into a zone where it is not comfortable, right? Because water will
Right.
extinguish fire. So fire items are related with red color, pink color, and the shape is triangle shape, right? So any
Right.
triangular shape item or pink or red color. So for example, you have got north and you have got a pink color wall. That means your fire is getting impacted. Your water is getting impacted. In north, you cannot have a red color wall, for example, because the color therapy is coming into the picture. So these are one way of looking at it. The other one is metal. Fire actually controls metal, but what happens if metal items come into the fire zone? So metal is represented by white color and the shape is circle. In astrology, it is represented by Saturn. So anything to do with iron items or circular items or white color items going into your fire zone means your fire is impacted. And when fire is impacted, then your chakra and then your body organs will be impacted.
Right. So this is something that you will introduce in your course that's going to come up, is it?
Correct. Well, the course covers not only the balancing of all the 5 elements, but also how do you balance your property. Then what are the remedies you can do? Specifically, I have added remedies from the ocean churning as well, which is very relevant, and that's very easy to understand how that works. And then the highlight of the course is how do we manage our day-to-day ailments or common health ailments. So that's something we cover for all the 5 elements. And that actually resonates with a lot of people, because common problems like diabetes, BP, anger, memory issues, insomnia, they are very common problems. They are more to do with our lifestyle rather than to do with anything.
Right. So talking about the problems, we can move on to what kind of problems that we come across.
Yeah, I think we'll go to problem. This slide actually highlights what does this fire element actually represents in general. So for example, water controls your memory, creativity, and sleep. So when your fire is disturbed, you know that your short-term memory gets impacted. The long-term memory is controlled by water, because they say in the traditional Chinese medicine that kidneys are the one which actually stores your memory. Water stores the
Right.
memory, because anything you put in water, it takes the color of that thing. It retains that thing. So that's
Yeah.
why water always say that you have a long-term memory, but short-term memory is to do with the fire element. Similarly, it circulates blood and heat. It secretes sweat. Sweating is something which comes from fire. And I just want to highlight that people who suffer from heart stroke or heart attack, one of the early symptoms of getting that issue is that they actually get sweating while they are sitting or while they're walking, while they are just lying down, but unnecessarily they will get sweat. Even they are not working, but the sweating comes in because the sweat actually, the heat from the heart, if it is getting blocked or the arteries are getting blocked or the heart is not being able to pump, so it will try to put more pressure to work, and then the heat will go out through your skin. So sweating comes through the skin. So that is an indicator that your fire element is not right. Even the sweating in your hands and your feet is an indicator that your fire element is not right.
Right.
Sorry.
So that's a very beautiful way to understand how a planet, or for that matter, how an element is functioning for you.
And if that is happening, then the first thing you should look at is what is happening in your southeast corner. So if you want to see, okay, my health is getting impacted, because your body is actually reacting to your environment.
Yes, and so it is. Yes, so it's receptive of whatever is kept there, what is imbalanced there, will unknowingly, knowingly impact your body and your health issues also.
There is one thing in Japanese, in Japanese, it's very big that for them, every single living and non-living entity actually has an energy and imparts some energy on you, right? So they all worship or they will take care of that object. So not only living, but any non-living entity has an impact on your environment. So that's why it is important to manage your environment. Okay.
Right.
Going back to the some of the other things which is represented is communication. So if people speak fast, and then it is a good indicator that it's a fire, specifically with a high pitch, with a high tone. Specifically, people in subcontinent, they have by default have a very high tone. So their fire element could be impacted, or is not balanced. But speech is also very rapid with the air element. The only difference between fire and air element is that the people with air element, they have a very lean structure, whereas with the fire, they are well built. They are not that bulky or not lean, but they're okay, medium structure. The tongue is represent the front part of the tongue represents your fire element. So in the olden days, in Ayurveda, all the doctors or the Vad, they used to measure your heartbeat, look at your eyes, look at your tongue, and the first thing they will say, okay, show me your tongue. So if your tongue in the front is pale, then your fire element is disturbed, for example. So tongue gives you an indication of how your fire element is. Color is obviously red and pink. The emotion is of joy, and when that emotion is not when the element is not balanced, then it becomes into anger. So that is a side effect of that. If it is balanced here, then you are joyful. Your face will represent, showcase that you are a very joyful person. Yeah, calm, but at least joy. There will be joy.
Yeah.
And you can also see there will be lines underneath your eyes. I forgot what it's called, crow lines or nest crow lines. But you will build lines underneath or besides your eyes, which shows that you have got too much joy. That means too much fire element is there. Other way to look at it is people who laugh unnecessarily, for example, their fire element is not right. Flavor is bitter. So that's one side of it. That, for example, Karela is one thing which people eat. So that is to do with the
bitter gourd. Yeah.
Climate is heat, season is summer, and the chakra we have already discussed is that. The diagram actually just showcases you that when we take the food, it goes to the tummy, and then it goes to spleen, then it goes to kidneys. Kidneys are responsible to make your bone marrow and white blood cell and plasma. So people who suffer from, say, for example, from dengue in India, they suffer from dengue. You must look after your kidneys, because that's where your plasma and your WBCs are actually being made. So if your kidneys are bad, then you won't be able to recover from dengue that easily. And then it goes back into the white blood cell goes into the heart, and with the air intake from lungs, that heart synthesizes the blood to the red blood cells. So the red blood cells are coming here, and then it passes on to the rest of the body, then the heat and that, right? So it's important that if your heart is fire element is there, then your red blood cells will be in a good shape. So similarly, if your fire element is disturbed, you will have blood disorders as well. There's one indication. Okay, this slide covers common key ailments, which is sweating. As I said, you can have sweating in your hand, in your palm, in your feet. So cold and hot sweating, that is to do with fire. Speech, speaking fast, too fast, is something to do with fire element. Similarly, stammering. In astrology, we say Mercury is affected, then stammering comes in. But from a Vastu perspective or Chinese medicine perspective, then you can say stammering comes from being fire element is not balanced. Any ulcer in your tongue or mouth is related with this. Your attraction to bright colors or dislike towards the bright colors like red or pink identifies that your fire element is weak or fire element is excess. Again, poor and short-term memory is related to that, and specifically kids who say, oh, I can't study for that long, or I can't concentrate. Concentration is also related with the
fire element.
Remember, one of the chakras is actually sitting in the top, which is related with the fire. That's where our head is, right? So that's why if your concentration is weak, then you know that your fire is not working
properly. Right. So this is a beautiful place where we can understand the correlation, the entire thing, Vastu, astrology, and so many things. The environment is so very related. It's not just
they're all correlated. Everything is correlated. It's just that we sometimes don't see that way, but it is all correlated.
Right. So the universe is actually one energy flow.
Yes, correct. That is, so we have covered high short-term memory, then blood pressure, specifically the high blood pressure. High blood pressure is also related with liver, which is an air element. So for blood pressure, we always say breathing is a good exercise because that controls your flow of air. And anything which moves in your body, the blood flows, but the flowing of the blood is responsible via the air element. So if your air is not managed, then the blood will not flow. And if you correlate this with the elements, the fire actually uses air to burn. So if you put more fire, the fire will go wild. If you put less fire, the fire will be subdued. So the fuel for the fire is actually air, right? So if you reduce air, then the fire is managed. So for blood pressure, because blood pressure is representing fire, but if you intake air properly or do pranayam or do anulom vilom, you are managing the air, how it goes through the lungs. So if you control your breathing, then you will control your high blood pressure. So that's a relation I'm showing, how fire gets exhausted or how fire gets controlled through the air element. Water exhausts it, but the fuel for the fire is actually oxygen, air.
Right.
Sleep disorders, for example, dreams, nightmares, they are also related with fires. For example, the hypersomnia, which is the daytime sleeping disorder, which is to do with your blood stagnation. So that means your fire is weak. Whereas the chronic insomnia is more to do with liver, that people can't sleep late in the morning or in night, and that is to do with liver and also with heart. I guess the other way to look at it, how you are having this problem, is that on your nails, if you get white lines or white pigments in your nails, then it is a good indicator that that particular organ, signified by that finger, is getting impacted or going to be impacted. So, for example, here in this picture from the TCM, or the Chinese medicine, traditional Chinese thing, shows that the meridians for your heart of fire element is H1, H2, and it comes onto small finger or little finger, which is H9 and H8. So if you do massage, I mean, I use this acupuncture thing, which is there, which I use. I just massage my small finger or little finger to ensure that my fire element is okay. Similarly, if I have to control my earth element, which is the stomach, for constipation, or for my knees, I will use my middle finger. Like that, you can actually use it. The only thing I will say that in Ayurveda and in TCM, the element representation is a little bit different. So that's why you will see these differences. But you can use this acupuncture type mechanism to fix your organ or the ailment. The other thing to remember is that when fire is impacted, your cash flow is impacted, because the south to southeast zone is represented by Venus and Mars. So Venus, we know, is to do with, that's where goddess Lakshmi is. So that is to do with our finance, that is to do with our cash flow, that is to do with anything which is a liquid asset will come from there. So if your fire is impacted, then you will have a problem. The other thing you will have is that the customers will come to your shop but will not buy. So the new customers comes from north, which means if water is balanced, the customers will come, but customers will not buy if your fire is imbalanced. So I give an example every time that, ladies go to do this shopping and they will ask the bhaiya, ye sari dikha do, can you show me another sari? So they will keep looking saris but never buy anything. So they will ask me, salesman will say, mera time waste kar diya, 10 sari bhi dekhi aur kharidi nahi, right? So that that their fire element is imbalanced. But if she buys and she makes a transaction, that means the fire is converted. Right. Now, water gets imbalanced when you don't get even a customer. That is the other problem, that I don't get any customer even though I have a good product or a service. और उसके जो the remedial measures are there is that you must do exercise, specifically 5 to 7. You must do breathing exercise that will control your fire, because air controls the fire. And fire is also as a pitta, right, in Ayurveda. So try to reduce your pitta diet and eat more raw food, more green vegetables. Lauki ka juice is something we say it's very beneficial, but any smoothies or any green vegetable is good. And if you eat raw vegetables or raw food, then whatever is your jathar agni, it takes its own time to digest that. It doesn't, if you eat something which is already cooked and ready to, then it won't take that long. So it will just digest it easily, right? So take it more time, reduce your agni in the body if you have got a too much high fire element. I guess that's the main thing. But as I said, breathing is important for you, because air is controlled by fire is controlled by air. And then control your diet. And in terms of Vastu, make sure that your south to southeast corner is balanced, meaning there is no anti-element. When I say anti-element, element like water and metal, because water will destroy this or control this. Similarly, metal doesn't work with fire, because if you put metal in fire, it will be melted. Or if you take fire into the water, then fire is weakened, and also fire goes to the metal side, then it doesn't work. So these are the three areas to look for. Fire in the south to southeast is okay, but can't go in north, and can't go in north to northwest. Whereas it is fine with east direction, which is where air element is, and it is fine in the southwest, which is where the earth element is. So it works with earth and air.
So this is a very detailed session that we have had on fire, and there are many more detailed sessions such as this in Vishalji's class. So if you're interested, all the data about the class as well as Vishalji's WhatsApp number where you can contact him will be given in the bio below. Please do contact him if you want to learn this beautiful science. Till we meet up with you again, Vishalji, thanks so much for such a detailed session.
Thank you, Anuradha ji. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
the opportunity.